passions in the food world is, well, I guess you'd call it heritage cooking. I love the way that people cooked, 50, 100, 200 years ago. And I often set out to duplicate some of those recipes. For some of them, though, I got really, really lucky, and I inherited some recipes. Hang on a second. Ricky, get out of there. Thank you. Serves you right. My son just took a big old bite of baking soda. I'm glad. He was after the sugar and being a pest. In this pan, what I have is the beginnings of a pineapple upside down cake the way my grandmother used to do it. And I'm pretty sure that she did it the way her mother used to do it. And so this is Frank Emily's pineapple upside down cake. And the traditional way is to start with melting 4 tablespoons of butter and I think half a cup of brown sugar in a cast iron skillet. Simple, simple. We're going to let this cook and melt over low heat, and we're going to walk over here and put the cake together. Okay, so let me get my mixer fixed. This is really a very simple cake. It follows all of the basic principles of putting together a cake, and I love it for that reason. We're going to use the creaming method, and all that means is you work the butter and the sugars together with the wet ingredients before you add the dry ingredients. And I actually skipped the step. Alright, so we need the sugar in there if we're going to mix it together. I have half a cup of brown sugar, and I have half a cup of granulated sugar. I'm going to lock my mixer down and let that just do its thing while I come over here. Now here I've got 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and you can see where Ricky thought he was getting some sugar. Okay, this is 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1 teaspoon of baking powder.
Can you tell the difference?
Usually you can. So we want that in there with our flour. And then we have just a tiny pinch of salt. And you need salt in baked goods. Salt simply makes things taste more like themselves. So we're going to whisk all this together, and then it's going to sit there, we're going to leave it alone. Now, we've got some butter being stubborn. It's a little chilly in here today, so look here. My butter didn't come all the way to, I think, what most people would consider room temperature. My kitchen temperature right now is in the 60s. It's one of the benefits of having a house built before the Civil War. It's usually in the 60s. So, in this case, you simply have to let it work a little longer. So you don't have to sit here and watch that happen. I will be back as soon as this comes together and show you what it's supposed to look like. You know, beat the fire out of something long enough and it'll eventually do what you want. And that's what I did here. Come take a look. See? That's all you're doing. There's not enough butter or sugar, either one, to get that kind of creamy thing that you do with a lot of cakes or pastries. This time, this is what you're after. So our next step is to take 2 eggs, and I've got mine at room temperature. And you're just going to beat these in. And like always, you can do this by hand if you want to. I'm just lazy. So as soon as the first one's incorporated, plop that second one down in there. And let that work. And I'm actually going to stop at this point and scrape down the bowl, which is really an important step I think a lot of people miss, and I do this several times during the process. You've got a lot of stuff hanging around on the edge of your bowl where the batter, or what is that thing? The beaters don't quite hit. You want that in your batter. You want everything one compound. That's not compound, it's a homogeneous mixture. Isn't it? I think that's what you want. You want everything evenly distributed. So our next step is to add 2 things. This is the flour mixture that's got the baking soda, baking powder, and salt in it. And then over here we've got 1 cup of buttermilk. Buttermilk is one of my favorite ingredients. It's got just enough acidity in it that it gives a fabulous, subtle tang to whatever you cook with it. And it does wonderful things in baked goods. Alright, so I'm going to actually put the flour and buttermilk in there in 3 batches. We're going to alternate them. And again, it's because we're after a smooth mixture. You dump all that flour in there at once, you're probably going to end up with big old pockets through the batter, and that's not lovely. Give a little splash of buttermilk. Let it keep working. Now, you can turn off the beater when you're adding the flour, just like I'm doing, or you can dump it straight in there. But you're gonna look like, well, I don't even know what, like you were trying to play ghost for some kid's Halloween party, because it will go everywhere. It will end up on your cabinets. Not that I know that from experience. Somebody told me that. See? Bring it in together. And then let's make our last dollop. And you know, go to rough thirds on this. Nobody's going to be sitting there with a measuring cup over your shoulder saying, ooh, you didn't do that evenly. Don't worry about trying to put this together extremely carefully. This is an old country cake. Oh, see what I mean about wearing it? I'm wearing it. Really excited because when I lived out in the Pacific Northwest, most stores didn't even carry buttermilk, and if they did, they carried a very low-fat buttermilk, which simply was watery and did not have the same flavor that the whole milk buttermilk has. So I'm glad to have it. Alright, this part's done. I'm going to pop him up here and let that mixer thing drain a little bit. I've already made a mess, so I'm going to let it keep being a mess. And I'm taking 3 things over here. Da-da-da. Now, I've made this with fresh pineapple, and it's fabulous, it really is. But there's a couple things I'd like to note about that. You can't always get good fresh pineapple, and the canned stuff is consistently high quality. And pineapple was a very traditional dessert.